Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Villa Park podcast. It's me, Rich, and I'm back with the main man, Martin, for your fans forum. As we know, Tuesday night is fans forum night, and we're going to get into all of the Aston Villa chat on and off the pitch. We've got ticket prices to discuss, we've got transfers or lack of to discuss, we've got new formations maybe to discuss, and all of your questions and comments in. And I've also pinned the link at the top of the chat. If you want to jump on live and ask us a question or get involved in the chat and stay on for as long or as little as you want, then please do. We've got someone here, Villain Lee, but he's not connected. But jump off, jump back on, and we'll get you on the show as well. I just want to start off though with and everyone's in the comments. Really, really sad news today of the passing of Ozzy Osbourne, and just want to say rest in peace and thoughts go out to his family at this time. And yeah, it always just seems so poignant and so sad that when these legends of music or sport pass away, it always seems so sad. But I think also, Martin, bringing you in a second, the fact that he, had the opportunity to perform his last concert at Villa Park, it just makes it even more poignant in a way that, he was able to do that and reach kind of the pinnacle, I would say, of a career, of such a long career. And then, so sad to hear this news today.
Yeah, incredibly sad to hear it today. I found out through the group chat when Sam put it in, and I seen it, I was like, is that a hoax? Because yourself, you take these things with like a grain of salt, but obviously it was true, and unfortunately he has passed away. And we got a fitting farewell in his Villa Park concert. Mosh pits going around everywhere. Jason Moana even getting involved. There were lots of different things going on. So he's reached the peak of his life, and it's a very fitting way to go out just for him. He got to do the one thing he always wanted to do, and now unfortunately he's I could say fortunately he's no longer in pain, which is the good thing for him and his family. So rest in peace to the Prince of Darkness, as they like to call him.
Yeah, absolutely. And loads in the chat. Duncan, RIP. Ozzy. Kev says a tifo for Ozzy against Newcastle, please. That has to be done, and some sort of tribute for him as well, because these last couple of years he's been a real big part of Aston Villa Football Club. The kit release last season with him and the
Music.
Sharon, where's my Preds?
Yeah. Music, coming out to him as well.
Yeah.
Villa Park,
Such a massive part, and Sharon
so
Osbourne getting involved as well with the kit launches and being around the club. It was really nice to see. So yeah, absolutely. They need to do something for that game. And yeah, loads of people in the chat talking about rest in peace, Ozzy. Dave says hearing Crazy Train as the players walk out will hit different. Absolutely. Good evening to you as well. Thanks to everyone, and thanks to Josh from Aston Villa from the stands for the raid. I worked it out. I figured it out how to link his channel to ours. So yeah, we'll obviously support each other moving forward as well. So, and potentially Josh, I did send in the link as well. He might be coming on, so we'll see about that. But yeah, let's obviously, yeah, like I say, thoughts to his family at this time, and like I say, hopefully we get a real special tribute for Ozzy Osbourne throughout the season, but certainly the first game of the season against Newcastle, and make it a huge atmosphere for him, 100%. Where do you want to start, Martin? I mean, do we talk the preseason so far? Do we talk transfers, ticket prices? Where do you want to start? It's your choice, my friend.
I think I'd like to start with the ticket prices. I think that's the going talk at the minute, and it hasn't stopped. I'm still seeing it now at this point about the ticket prices of not just Aston Villa but the Premier League in general.
Yeah, it's a bit crazy, isn't it? I mean, I've seen, what is it, £82 for one of the tickets, one of the sort of normal tickets in the Holt End.
88 section. It was £77 for Holt End, and then zone 2, 3, and 4 were cheapest one was being £58.
Yeah, and that being said, I saw, because I follow, a fair few Newcastle accounts on X, and their tickets for their first game, I think their ticket is category A or whatever, or zone 1 or 2 is £77, and theirs is a significant increase on what it was last season. So it isn't just Aston Villa. Let's just put it out there, and we know what prices some of the London clubs charge as well. So, but it just seems that, as we keep saying, certain supporters are getting priced out of the game, or people are having to pick and choose really carefully what games they go to, which is the real sad state of affairs, I would say. That being said, as by all accounts, it's pretty much sold out, and the first game is pretty much sold out. I mean, it would do anyway, wouldn't it? Aston Villa v Newcastle, first game of the season, 12:30 kickoff. But yeah, it's a difficult one, because how far does it go? If we qualify for the Champions League again next season, does the ticket prices go up to £88, £90? Like, and for me, it always hits home. Like, if I was just to go by myself, because my wife, if she was interested in football, she wouldn't be an Aston Villa supporter, put it that way. My son comes sometimes, but let's say it's just me going. Okay, I can pay £80, let's say, for example. But if I was to take him, if I was to take my daughter, if I was to take my wife, you're talking what, £300 for an hour and a half worth of entertainment, because the rest of it around it isn't free, because they'll want a program, they'll want some drinks, they'll want some food. So you're then talking another £100 on top of that for 4 people to have food and drink.
Yeah.
You can go on holiday for those prices. £400 for what, 2 or 3 hours worth of entertainment, and then you might lose.
Well, to put it in perspective, and not making it a competition or anything like that, when I put it into my way, which I have to pick and choose the games now, which is what you said earlier. I mean, let's say I pay £80. Now I'm going to pay another, maybe what, £200 to £300 on a flight for a night. Hotel, you might be looking at, say, another £150. I spent to go to £500 before I've even hit Birmingham. So, and like you said, it's the food, the drink, anything you might need. I might spend about £100, £120. Now I'm at £600. I'm at double than you, and I've barely even touched I haven't even landed in the country yet. So that kind of goes to show. But when I seen the ticket increases, my first thought, just before I looked at any other Premier League club, was that maybe we put it up due to the fact that we're renovating the North Stand. And I kind of understood it. But if we were the only ones that we put it up because of the North Stand to get some sort of revenue in, I would have forgiven it. But the fact now that I'm seeing every other Premier League club put their tickets up, yes, don't get me wrong, I understand inflation. It's a national thing, but when they're putting up a big increase, it's pricing out the normal fan, the one who may have been going for 50, 60 years.
And it's
the ones we're used
to
paying.
Yeah, and it's not even the norm. It's not even.
Yeah.
It's not even what you would class as the normal fan, like whatever that is. It's like, you're talking people with quote unquote good jobs, good paying jobs, because you have to prioritize what you do, where you go, how you spend your money. That's how difficult it is these days. It's not. It's really, really difficult. Kevin said, not sure where you holiday for £400, Richard. Yeah, to be fair, yeah. But well, yeah,
I actually paid €400 on a flight, on a return flight to Turkey. So you actually it can happen.
But Gaz says they have already. That's the point I'm making. They've already priced out the normal fan. That's already gone. And that's the mad thing about it. And it's become almost like a status symbol to say that you go into the games and all that sort of stuff. And look, that they kind of want more fans of your sort of situation, Martin, where you'll make an event of it. You'll make the weekend of it. You'll go to Aston Villa, you'll pay for your flight, you'll do this, you'll do that, and you'll have 3 or 4 games a season where you'll plan it out and it'll be a big weekend for you. and that's what they want. They want thousands of those type of fans to come because they know that if that's their event, they're not just going to go there, go to the game, have one beer. They'll have a few drinks. They'll buy some stuff out the shop. That's what they want. They want those type of fans multiplied by thousands every week, and that's kind of what they want.
Yeah, and that's understandable. But at the same time, though, Rich, I mean, you kind of have to, make sure that your local fan base is included. Like, yeah, it's great to have international fans coming because you want people coming from all around the world. Ultimately, that's what you want. But at the same time, you can't forget about your local fan base, the ones who are from G6,
100%,
the ones who are from Whitton, the ones who are down the road, maybe inside the city centre, even in Solihull, if there's any Villa fans there. You have to include your local fan base to a certain degree. And in that regard, it's kind of nearly priced them out that, oh, yeah, we just want people who are coming internationally because at the end of the day, it's a business. And I get that too, but football is not just a business. It's an emotional game, and emotion,
well, that's it.
Out of 10 over trumps the business.
Yeah, and they know that. I mean, I think Kev put it in the chat. He'll pay whatever they are somehow, and they know this.
And I'm the same. I'm with Kevin on this. If there's a game I really want to go to, and it's one of them where it doesn't matter how much it costs, I'll pay it because I want to go to that game. So I'm with Kevin on that one. Like, it's a great point to make because even the local fans will go, I don't care what it is for Villa, I'll support the club no matter what. And that's fine. We're not saying don't. But at the same time, there's ones who might financially struggle to get to these games because these prices are constantly going up. And let's say years ago, because I remember when Villa were in the mid-table when I was going, and tickets were like £30 to £40, which I thought was great. As well for the local fan base, a family bringing their kids, and the ticket was like, say, £120 if they're bringing a family of four. Now it's, say, £90 just for one person. Like, that's nearly priced out a whole family gone. And they might say, well, we can't afford to go to Aston Villa anymore. We now have to kind of pick and choose which one we go to, save a bit of money, because not just tickets, like you said, it's food, it's drinks, it's other things that maybe the kids will want to do as well, or a bit of shopping for clothes, jerseys, club shops. All these little things add up. And you're right, you could nearly go for a holiday for that price.
Yeah, a few comments in. Thank you to the man with the golden gun for the £2 super sticker. Much appreciated from you, my friend. Stephen said he went to a baseball game in Toronto the other day. It started at 12, but was loads of stuff for the kids to do beforehand, and then the kids could book to go on the pitch for free after if they were members. So things that happen for children in America. Yet we're not earning London wages. That's the thing. James said, funny that killing off the working person's pubs, supermarkets, cafes, and now football. It's like they don't want us mixing and talking. Oh, conspiracies, James. Conspiracies.
Strong, James. I love it.
The sport seems to be moving away from a working man sport to a millionaires club. Scandalous. I agree. Gaz said they won't see that. They just want the fans who spend. They have to raise the turnover. It's the real damage of PSR. Good evening, Lewis. No problem for being late. And yeah, I think Peter said to build they should build an 80,000 seat stadium and reduce ticket prices, or at least freeze them now for a long time. But they just charge more. I think someone's put there. And Emery's Keener said if you go see any band, it will cost a lot more than that, lads. Yeah, 100%. I mean, the concert tickets for some places are absolutely crazy.
Even for concerts, like not just stadium concerts, like park concerts. They're going
it's mad. The other thing I wanted to just touch on with regards to the prices is the kits as well. Like, don't get me wrong, really love us being with Adidas and, the training stuff and all that. It's definitely a step up in quality and a step up in brand, obviously. But this whole thing now of the shirt that's £85, not like £50, £85 that isn't even now the actual kit that they wear, which is then £120, is absolutely criminal. They change the kit every season when there was a time when they changed them every 2 seasons. And now they've got this situation where I could understand it a few years ago when they had like the Pro shirt, which was a slightly different material, but it was the same design as the normal.
Yeah, it was more player
the
fit.
normal kit.
More
It was more of a player fit and athletic fit, not not good for the dad bod. I could understand that, but now it's a different kit. It's got a different design. It's got a different color, different material. And then so if you think you've got kids or you've got young, teenagers, they're not going to want the 80. They're not going to want that. I'm just saying it again. They're not going to want the £85 shirt, right? You're not talking about a £40 shirt here. We're talking about an £85 shirt. They're going to want the £120 shirt. That is scandalous from Adidas and from the football clubs. It's absolutely scandalous.
Yeah, and even if they do get let's say if one teenager does get the £85 t-shirt, then you see the next one with the £120, the fella with the 8 or whoever it might be with the £85 top's going to look at that and go, well, I want that one now. Like,
yeah,
and now all of a sudden you spend to £200 on 2 jerseys.
Yeah, and they bring the different designs of the training kit. It's every 6 to 8 weeks and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and even
those training. I do love a good new training kit when it comes out.
I love it as well. But
see, when they're changing it every 6 weeks, I'm just like, no, please, just keep it to the one. When the sale happens, I can go to that because they get rid of the new one. And I'm like, why? I wanted that one, and now it's gone.
I know it's £45 for the training t-shirt, £38 for the shorts. So again nearly £80 for the shorts and t-shirt. Now I've waited in the sales and stuff for a couple of the stuff that I've had, but yeah, it's absolutely crazy.
But that authentic shirt is more expensive here in Ireland. There's no why. We're charging €150, which is about £135.
Yeah. Your man here said that €150 for us lads in Ireland. Yeah.
I didn't know Emery's team in Barcelona was actually from Ireland. Good man. Where about in Ireland you're from? Put it in, please.
Top man. Gaz says, as we've just said, they make it different enough to force you to buy the expensive one. That's the thing. It's absolutely crazy. It's absolutely. But we the mad thing is we still go after it. We still pay for it. The club shop is packed on match days. People, queuing up for the kits. So they're going to charge it, aren't they? They're going to charge it. There's your man's from Navan.
No, Rich, I do love you, but you pronounce it really wrong there.
Okay, sorry. I just pronounce it.
It's Navan.
Navan. Okay. All right. Navan.
I live in Navan, so
I don't
know this fella. So he's going to have to reach out to me there, and he said he's a Dublin Brummie in the comment as well. Yeah. Otherwise, if you want to extend it out, you say Navan. That's how they say it here. Navan.
Yeah. Anyway, rant over about the ticket prices, and we'll see what they do with the Europa League games. We'll see what they do about the Carabao Cup and all that sort of stuff. And you know what? If we hit the season well and we start winning games, we won't mind about the ticket prices. We'll be clamoring for a ticket yet again. So we'll just have to see how we start off the season. Everyone, we have got over 200 in the chat already. We are marching on to 6,000 subscribers. I checked recently and we are about 180 away. So less than 200 away from the big 6K. So you guys can help us get there. We want to hit that before the season starts. That's our mission. So please do help us do that. Hit the like button as well. Help spread the word of the channel. Hit the subscribe button if you're new. And if you want to become a member, if you want to join us on the show as well to have a comment, you don't have to put you don't have to put your screen on or anything like that. The link is pinned at the top of the chat and you can join the show. I think we had Villain Lee who was going to join, but it said he needed to connect his mic. So if you're watching, jump back in, connect your mic, and you'll be able to join the show. A couple of questions and we'll get to them shortly. Pre-season. A couple of defeats to start off the season, Martin. Now, we could have two schools of thought, I would say. The first school of thought is, pre-season. I'm not worried about the result. Let's just put that caveat. I'm not bothered about results and stuff. But there have been people saying, there were just games where the youth team were predominantly playing. It doesn't matter. And the pre-season starts properly when they go to America. But there's also been a school of thought to say, well, what does that mean? Like, because if we'd have won these games 3 or 4-0, and it would have been clamoring for the young players to play, and it'd be like, oh, look, we've got new cabs on the rank. These players are brilliant. Get them in the first team. But because we've lost these games and the young players haven't really done as well as we maybe anticipated, it's kind of like, well, pre-season doesn't matter. It's just a fitness exercise. So where do you sit in that kind of opinion?
Look, I'm always of the opinion where I don't particularly care about results in pre-season. What I care about is the players' fitness and their individual performances as such, as opposed to team performances. But these 2 games here during the week were predominantly youth players, yes. But when we look at the Walsall side, they were a complete senior side. So men against boys. And to be honest, fair play to them, there was, a few senior heads there, but in fairness, they were only just back and then they were thrown into a game straight away. I'm not expecting them to be, on top of their game, being sharp, everything like that. It's minutes in the tank. That's exactly what it is to me. And then you have the game against Rostock. Again, another predominantly youth team that was out, and Rostock playing a strong side. So I'm of the side of, for me, this phase of the preseason was looking at youth players with some senior heads in there to have some minutes in the tank for them, and to see if these youth players are going to make that step up to either if it's the 21s or if it's the senior side. Maybe Unai was looking at that. There could have been some sort of agreement with the new under 21 head coach. All these things could have been looked at. And George Hemmings is the one who's getting a lot of highlight at this minute. And to be honest, I haven't really watched the games. I've seen the scores and everything like that, and I've seen the goal scored by Ramsey. So I'll put my hand up there, but I'm hearing a lot of rave about this kid. But I'm taking that with a pinch of salt, because we've always seen where one young player would be unbelievable in pre-season. He'll go and get his chance, and then come the new season, he's kind of just sitting there warming a seat on the bench. So that's where I take that with a bit of pinch of salt. So I take these 2 games overall, Rich, with a pinch of salt, because it was youth players. It was lads getting minutes in the tank. Some boys are probably in America already. I know some put in the comment, when are they going to America? I say some are already there. We'll probably see the videos of some who are going predominantly as the group. But I say some are probably there already, getting their fitness up for that. So I reckon this phase was more look at the youth, see where that goes, and then pre-season more or less starts in America.
Yeah, I agree, and I agree to an extent, right? I agree that Emery would have used these 2 games as an opportunity to see what's level some of the young players are at. And it was interesting, if you catch my conversation with Charlie, Academy AVFC, yesterday, you on Monday, you would have heard him say, it's interesting that a lot of the players that have been included in Unai Emery's first team at the moment is in these friendlies are the treble winning, let's say, under 18 side. It's not necessarily too many of the now under 21s players who maybe weren't quite the level that Unai Emery anticipated. So maybe he's looking at some of these players, like you say, the Hemmings, Tristan Rowe, TJ Carroll, who, yes, Kari said, made a bad mistake in that game. And Brad Burrows, who's, I don't even know if he's fully 17 yet. So it's interesting that these players have kind of been fast-tracked to see what they're like and how they operate, because some of them aren't even 18 yet, whereas the 19s and 20-year-olds haven't really kind of been included in this senior squad. They've been sent out on loan. The Josh Feeneys, the Sil Swinkles, one or 2 other players O'Reilly have been sent out on loan, because it's like, this is key time for them. You've got to show that you're capable. Whereas some of the younger players are like, actually, I quite like these. These have been playing in a good system. Jimmy Shan's done well. He's been promoted to the under 21. So these players will join the under 21s and grow up in that sort of environment, and maybe operate in similar style to the first team. So it's interesting in that sense, because yes, those players are a lot younger than maybe we'd anticipate, sort of at 19, 20, 21-year-olds. But what was slightly concerning to me is that I want to see intent in the way that we want to play. I want to see the intent that we want to see in terms of how we're moving forward. And I've seen us play, maybe a 3-5-2. And admittedly, there's probably a couple of players that aren't going to be part of the squad. Louis Barry was there. He's moved to Sheffield United. Lewis Dobbin is in there. He's going to move, I'm sure. Alex Moreno's in there at left back. He's probably going to move on. So there are players there that are probably not going to be in part of the squad. But what I saw was just us playing the ball around again across the box, playing the ball around across the back, no one taking anyone on, no one running in behind. And if you're utilising youth players, Brad Burrows is rapid. You've got other players who are really quick. I didn't see, Andres Garcia. I didn't see him trying to take on his wide player from the wing back position. He just kept cutting back all the time, same as Matty. So I'm not seeing anything any different to what we were moaning about last season. And that's what I wanted to see in the preseason games. You'd have thought a game against Walsall, a game against Hansa Rostock would be right. Try things out, try and beat players, try and take players on, try and get some 1v1s, try and get some one-on-one opportunities against the goalkeeper. And I didn't see anything of that at all. And that doesn't matter who's playing in the team. That just, you want to see the intent from what you're trying to get out of preseason. And that's the thing that's concerning me a little bit with regards to how we're going to approach this preseason, how we're going to approach the season coming up. It's not about the result. It's about the intent and what the players are doing on the pitch. Yeah, I can understand there's fitness issues and all that sort of stuff, and you're building minutes in the legs. But if you just carrying on the same thing of passing it across the box and passing it across the back and not beating anyone, cutting back from fullback positions, terrible crosses in the box, no one running in behind. These are all of the things that we were pointing at last season that we needed to work on. And there's no indication that we're going to try and work on these points in pre-season.
It is funny that you mentioned that, with passing around the side, but there's probably an element of nerves from the young lads as well, Rich. They'll want to try and press manage right, easy pass there. All these kind of play into the head of young players. So, and the senior lads will be a bit more confident, right? I'm going to try and beat him. I'm going to try and do this. But it's very hard to do that when you've all the young lads making the simple passes, not making the passes in behind the defence to, really make some real damage. But so it's kind of very hard to do that when these senior figures are trying to do things where these young lads are probably used to something else, So you're trying to find that mixture, and that's very hard to do in pre-season because, like I said, Rick, it is all about minutes in the tanks, but you are right in what you're saying, some intent, try something different. Let's see if this could work or that could work. But at the same time, when you have a team that is mostly made up of young lads, excuse me, they're going to do everything so simple just to try and impress the manager.
Yeah, no, yes, I agree. And there's times where they're going to want to do the safer option, and not necessarily try too much here or there. So I can understand that. And there were a couple of shining lights. I thought, as you said, Hemmings looked like he wanted to get on the ball. I thought Burrows at times, and he kind of got into good spaces and tried to take on his fullback. And players will learn, like TJ Carroll will learn from that mistake that he made. I thought Beezer, he looked quite solid in goal, made a couple of good saves in that first half. So I know he's not a young player, but, making his sort of first appearance. And yeah, I'm quite excited for this tour to America and see how they operate on Sunday, I think late Saturday night into Sunday morning. I'm quite excited to see how they operate. I just remember, the when we went to the America a couple of seasons ago when Emi Buendia was absolutely on fire. We had that. We had a brilliant game against Newcastle. It's 3-3, and then we had the great performance against Fulham where it's 3-1, and that was a really sort of good period for pre-season. And I just felt like last season's pre-season was a bit too disjointed, and I am really excited to see some of the established players, Tielemans, McGinn, Watkins. Despite the speculation around a lot of these players, I'm excited to see kind of how they are operating with a full pre-season behind them after having a good chunk of rest. You don't understand how important that rest is for players. The 4 to 5 weeks, not only just the rest in terms of like the body, just the rest in terms of being away from those players. because they're not. They'll be friendly, but they're not close mates. And if you're with each other's pockets constantly all the time, you'll be annoyed with each other. So just having a bit of time away from each other probably does them the world of good, right? So I think that's important. So yeah, I'm excited for this coming up in America. And like I say, I'm not getting carried away about results or anything like that at all. It's just like I said, I just want to see how we're operating in terms of some of the things that we needed to address next season. And you don't necessarily need new players to address that. You just need a bit of a difference in tactical and mentality. Ronan says 3 at the back is the biggest take so far from the 2 preseason games. Now, just asking, whether you've watched much of the games or not, but he's gone with 3 at the back, and I think the second game in terms of Rostock, I think it was Torres, Mings, and Lamar Bogard as the 3 centre backs. Now, just in terms of your opinion, okay, would you say that a 3 at the back would work as Villa's formation, as Villa's main formation, or would it be more beneficial to have that as a formation that you could just fall back to at certain games, away from home or against certain formations? How do you view the sort of operating as a back 3?
I don't think I'd like it as the main formation now, Rich, because we don't have the players to suit that, in my opinion. We don't have that out-and-out right wing-back, although Maatsen could probably play that out-and-out left wing-back probably perfectly well because he's got that fitness, that speed that you're looking for, but you need that on the opposite side as well, and we don't exactly have that. And then when I look at the centre-back options, Konza, Pell, Ming, Bogard, Ozcan, who's come in, only 5 centre-backs. You need kind of 6 or 7 if you're going to play 3 at the back, because you need them options kind of ready, raring to go. So I think it's only really one of them where I'd like to use it if, we're chasing that goal to get a draw or a win, to kind of get more bodies forward. I wouldn't be one to use it as the main formation, only because we haven't got the players to suit that system as such.
Yeah. Well, I was trying to play it out in my mind, and I was thinking, I can understand it from the defensive perspective, but I totally agree with you with regards to the options the options on the bench of the centre backs. But let's say you had Mings, Torres, Konsa, right, as your main 3, and then you went with Cash right back or Garcia and Maatsen left wing back. Then you probably be going something like Kamara, Tielemans. You probably have to say McGinn if he's captain, but then where do you put Amadou Onana? And then you've got no real width in terms of an attacking winger, because you'd have to have Rodgers playing off of Ollie Watkins, wouldn't you? So where does that put Marlon? Where does that put any other wide player? Like, we've got Bailey at the minute, who might he's probably on his way out, but where does that give you your attacking wide option? And then what do you do with Amadou Onana? Does he play instead of McGinn? Like, I just feel like, and we've got Ramsey still at the moment. So where does that leave? I feel like we're too central midfield heavy.
Yeah.
In terms of trying to accommodate all those. And as you say, we haven't necessarily got enough option out wide. And certainly we've got a decent 3 centre-backs, but we haven't got another 2 that can operate, as competition at the moment.
Yeah, if you're going to do 3 at the back in the way that the players are, if you're playing like a 3-4-2-1 with kind of more 2 attacking midfielders, and then you've got your centre midfielder behind us, so you're nearly playing a box in there with the striker here, and then you've got your wing backs bombing up and down the pitch. Although if one is too far up, you can have that centre midfielder here just shift out to the side, which would be all good and well, because you'll still have then 3 in that middle part for that protection. Which, in hindsight, in theory as well, you think that would work, because you could have Rodgers operate here in this little left side of that, the attacking 3, and you could probably have McGinn here, and then you've got Ollie Watkins, and you're doing well from the box. Because Villa do well when it comes to playing like that box midfield.
Yeah, playing through the lines in there.
Because we look to make some real damages. We get into the pockets a lot deeper and really make that spaces out wide. If they don't get it, we can then make the damages out wide, which hence that's where the wing backs come into, because Tielemans is very good at making that pass in behind to really hurt you. So if he hasn't got that option, he'll do another option. Either option is going to cause some serious damages. But in the same sense, you could either play a 3-4-3, where you've got your two wingers, and again, you have your wing backs, but then when you're defending, it comes to a back five, which is something that Emery may not be a fan of, because he would want to have three at the back at all times, of course, with that extra layer of protection from midfield. But then when you want to do that five at the back, then you're too condensed, and your two midfielder comes in, you've got nearly 7 players at the box, which, again, another one, works perfectly well if the system is fluid. But when we look at our player options, Matty Cash isn't exactly going to be the fittest player to play right wing back. You know, all the centre halves, if they're going to be playing 3 at the back, they need to be quick, and we haven't exactly got the quickest centre backs. Maybe Konza, probably about it, but they're not exactly the quickest. The slowest one you always put in the middle just in case, but the two beside them have to be quick in case wingers are going at you. And then your options up top need to be quick and fast, get balls in behind, and a stat as well. Villa have only made runs in behind 52.6% of the season last year, and Newcastle being the highest. So if you are looking in that route, runs in behind is your biggest thing to cause some damages, as well as having that cover at the back. So I can see what Emery's trying to do, because it's pre-season. He wants to see how it goes. But in the Premier League, I think you could be seriously damaged, because teams like to play predominantly 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, and that just kind of kills that 3 at the back formation half the time.
Agreed. Yeah, Nick, who does our music, Nick Salter, he asked a question on that about the 3 at the back. So we just covered that. But if he does it mean that he'd have to bring in 2 defenders to cover injuries and suspensions, or could Kamara and Bogard cover? He'd have to bring people in, wouldn't he, if he was going to do it?
Yeah, you need to bring in 3 defenders, in my opinion. You need to bring in 2 centre halves and 1 right wing back, because you can have that left side perfectly fine for Digne and Maatsen. Maybe keep him Moreno, but you kind of want to do that either, because he's someone who should be playing. So maybe a younger player there, and then whoever's on the right side, someone who is fit enough to play that role. Matty Cash coming in for them last few minutes of the game to shore it up, and again another young player. So you want kind of 3 options nearly on those flanks. And then when you're centre backs, you want at least 6, maybe 7, because when it comes to the cup games, other players can get a chance to get used to that system, buy themselves in. Again, younger players, of course, come into that. But ideally, you'd want maybe 4, 5 centre back options that are senior players.
Senior players. Yeah, definitely. A few comments coming in. Ben the Garden says 3 at the back. What happens if there are injuries? Exactly. And what have we got here? Emery's Kingdom says we'd have to buy players to play that 3 at the back system. It's only going to be used against Crystal Palace, says Lewis. Yeah. And that didn't work.
No, never works.
Martin Williams says we'll never come out of our half if we play 3 at the back. Yeah, I agree, mate. I agree. And praise for Konza from Peter. Konza moves about well. I think he gets himself in the right position most of the time. He's very good 1v1 defender. Yes, definitely. So, yeah, I think, again, good opportunity to try these things in pre-season to see, how players can operate within it. Can we break the lines? Can we move about freely? And I wouldn't be surprised if there's times throughout this sort of pre-season tour in the US where certain times they'll change formation and set us up slightly differently with different players and different personnel. So it will. I'm pretty sure that will happen, and that's again what pre-season is used for. As I said, I just repeat, I want to see the intent of us doing the things and trying the things out that we were missing last season, and that's what I really want to see. Let's go to some questions before we sort of finish off with the transfer chat, I think. So let me just get onto my socials to see where the questions came in. And while we're at it, please do hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, help us on the road to 6K. So we had lots of questions in from the account called It's a Joke on X, who really has been getting involved in a lot of questions, which is great, and a lot of chat. Said he hopes to tune in. First question is, which player do we think will massively improve next season?
Ooh.
And who do we think is going to have a massive drop-off? So,
I like that one. I like that one. Okay, who's going to have a big season? Marlon, in my opinion, will have a big season. Simply because it's sort of like a similar situation to Rodgers. When he comes in January, biding his time and decide, and he'll kick off. I think that's going to be a sort of a similar situation. And who's going to drop off? Ooh, I like that one. I'm going to say Luca Digne.
Yeah. I mean, it's a difficult one. I would probably say.
I mean, it's a safe answer, Luca Digne, but at the same time, it looks like he might lose a spot to Maatsen, so it could be that. That's why he drops off.
Exactly. So he doesn't play enough to sort of. I mean, we all said that last season, and he was the main player. So it's an interesting one. It is an interesting one. I will say Ian Maatsen for the big season. Nice. Although I'd really like it to be.
I was going to go with him, but then I kind of thought about Marlon there.
Yeah, no, and I think Marlon's the one that everyone hopes. I think there's something about Marlon where we feel like he's had a bit of an injustice, and we want him to sort of get the chance and grab that chance with both hands. The drop off. The drop off is hard to say, you know. Pau Torres?
Yeah, I see it, but at the same time, when you're in possession, he's one of the best players. Maybe Matty Cash probably be another one.
Yeah, it's just like we see that position as the one that needs to be improved. I'm just thinking of someone who could be at risk of like losing their place to someone, you know, for loss of form. You know, I hope it's not Yuri Tillemans. You know, because you could say drop off Yuri Tillemans because he had such an amazing season last season. So anything below what he did last season is kind of like
it's considered a drop off. Yeah.
So it's really difficult to say.
There to find drop off.
So exactly. So yeah, it's a difficult one. So, but in the comments, Peter says Daniel Marlon is my early pick for player of the season. Peter says Marlon and Onana. Adamski said Onana to improve, Booba to have a shocker. British Mix said Garnacho when he's with us. And realistically, Marlon, I believe he was saved for this season. Michael Gillespie says Rodgers. I hope that means to have a stormer this season. Peter just says McGinn will start to show some age. That's the thing. We always say this about John McGinn, but like he always defies the doubters whenever he plays. I know. James said Onana to get 5 to 10 goals. An injury-free Ramsey could be a game changer. It's make or break for him, methinks.
Just to kind of go on Ramsey, just before we kind of go anywhere with Ramsey, he played 29 games in the Premier League last season. That's kind of his best run for a while. And he only got 1 goal and 5 assists. That's not a great return for someone who... Well, 5 assists is obviously good, but he's someone who should be adding goals to his game. So maybe has he dropped off from last season and you could see a bit more of a drop-off because the level's going up?
Yeah. Potentially. The second question from him was, has Monchi delivered the best he can, or has he slightly underperformed?
Oh, the 50-50, that one, isn't it? I mean, he brought in Diaby, who did do well, but unfortunately had to be sold for PSO. He did bring in John Duran. No, sorry, Lang brought in John Duran. My apologies. Who else has he brought in?
It's a hard one because it depends on what you like. He
has got Onana in the door, which obviously because him and Emery are in the so that was a good sign. And Rodgers, Marlon. These are the old lads as well to kind of get us a bit back.
Precisely. This is the thing with Monchi, right? he is operating at probably 3 or 4 different strategies, right? So he's asked to find players for good value who've had first team experience that Unai Emery can polish into a higher value player, potentially to be sold on later on. He's also asked to find players that are young across the world, not even Europe, but across the world, that can be loaned out, can be potentially dropped into the first team and then sold for profit, i.e. Nedeljkovic, Barrenechea, etc., etc. And he's then asked to find players that can be, potentially big signings that can go into the first team as well. So he's operating on like 3 or 4 different strands. So this is where Aston Villa supporters probably need to take away some of the attachment that we have for certain players and some of the kind of like, oh, this player should be in the first team, that player should be in the first team, this player should be given a chance, because some players are just basically bought for trading. Like the old sort of, the Panini stickers that you got where you'd be like, oh, swap him. I'll have 2 cards for your 1 card. That's what they're brought in. They're signed with no intention of being anywhere near the first team. They're just bought in for trading purposes. And as Mr. Green said, he's world class at what he does. And that's the thing. He's operating on 3 or 4 different levels. You've seen that the team that is still starting at this moment in time is still majority Dean Smith with 1 or 2 other players that Emery and John and Steven Gerrard brought in. Loads of the players that Monchi's brought in have been brought in, then sold or loaned out because we're trying to operate to bring money into the club to maybe make 1 or 2 big signings.
Yeah, but in saying that, I know what you're saying with Dean Smith and Gerrard, but Emery's the one who's took them through that season.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
I'm not denying what Emery's quality is as a coach. What I'm saying is in terms of like Monchi with bringing in marquee signings and spending loads of money on players that are going to be in the first team. The big chunk of the squad, the team. If we didn't have Unai Emery, these players would be sort of average. He's put them into a system and made them amazing. But yeah, I mean, like if we go through it, Martinez, Matty Cash, Ezri Konsa, Tyro Mings, Luca Dean was a Gerrard signing, Boubacar Kamara was a Gerrard signing, John McGinn was a Steve Bruce signing, Ollie Watkins was a Dean Smith signing. So that's 8 players. 8 out of the starting 11. Jacob Ramsey's homegrown player, given his debut from Dean Smith. So 9 players that would potentially be starting in the 11 weren't signed by Unai Emery or Monchi.
Mad when you think about
it. Yeah. So when to the original question as to whether he's underperformed or not, I guess it depends on what his remit is. That's the difficult thing to answer the question. Yeah, it's a difficult one to answer. I would have liked more of his signings to be stalwart first team players. That's what I would probably say.
Yeah. Difficult question. I like the question. Very difficult for us to kind of have a good answer. That was a good one.
Because let's face it, Andres Garcia could be a bargain. He could be crap. Nedeljkovic wasn't physically good.
Whoa. Let's not insult my love of the football.
Yeah, well, he could be. I'm not saying I'm not saying he can't be a good player. I'm just saying
he's my new marvelous Nakamba. Okay, I'm not going to
sorry,
Andreas Garcia. Okay, sorry. I'm not accepting it.
Nedeljkovic, there was elements of a decent player there, but not physically strong enough for the Premier League. Barrenechea, for some reason, we had a real affinity for him because he pinged a few good passes against Walsall in a pre-season friendly. But he could have been good. Let's just say, but he's gone somewhere else. And again,
one of them players who was
probably not quite the grade, right? So there's been other players as well that he's John Duran, you have to say, was a success for. But I don't think Monchi brought him in. Wasn't it Dean Smith that brought him in?
Brought in who? Sorry,
John Duran.
It was. I think. Yeah, and I remember Johan Lang signed him. At the time.
Yeah.
Gerrard
so
It could have been
Yeah,
Steven
might have been. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I think the jury is still out on Manchester. Like I say, I would have liked to have seen more signings that would have been pushing for being main first team players. But Unai Emery shows what Unai Emery has done with the tools that he's had, and what a brilliant manager he's been, and what a brilliant coach he's been. Because there is absolutely no way when Steven Gerrard left the club that we had any inkling that any of these players would have been good enough to get a top 4 finish. No way.
Sell them all. Can't wait to get all the new players in now. All of a sudden,
exactly.
We don't
Exactly. Let's see if I have any other questions.
Sorry, Michael Gillespie's here says Unai brought in John Duran.
All right, fair enough.
But remember, Lang was the director at the time.
Yeah, fair enough. Final one. If Asensio, Disasi and Rashford hadn't come in January, would Aston Villa have gotten Europe? And will we struggle without them?
I don't think they'd have gotten Europe, no, because remember, Asensio hit that form early on, got us those wins. Rashford hit form a bit late on after that because he was kind of biding the time. And of course, he got injured. Disasi came up with some good moments. So I don't think we would have got Europe. I think we would have scraped 7th. So I don't think we would have. Actually, no, 7th would have got Europe, yeah. So maybe we would have. Maybe just about.
They definitely came in and provided a bit of spark, didn't they, when it was needed, particularly Asensio and Rashford. And I think some of those cup games came in at the right time to give us a bit of
momentum.
A bit of momentum, and a bit of change from the sort of Premier League sort of malaise that we had, and then it kind of gave us a bit of an increase in spirits. It lifted the spirits, and then once we hit our straps in the league and we got a couple of good results, then we were flying. But that, ironically, Asensio's form kind of dipped at that point, and Rashford obviously got injured for part of it as well. So it was a bit of a strange thing, but they certainly came in at the right time. They certainly came in at the right time to give us a boost. I'm still so gutted about that kind of last game of the season situation where Everton did us all the favours in the world. We just needed a point against Man United.
Yeah, look,
that's football. It's so disappointing. It's exactly. So just to finish off, and before we jump into sort of some of the questions that I've starred as well to finish off the show. I mean, lots of people talk about transfers and stuff like that, which is great. We have over 400 people in the chat, which is absolutely incredible on a Tuesday night for Fans Forum, which is brilliant. So I just want to thank everyone for joining. We try and get through as many comments as we can as well. So please keep your comments flying through. We're on the march to 6,000 subscribers. We want to hit that before the season starts. So please do help us get there. We're probably about 180 away from there now, so not far at all. So please do continue to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel, and help spread the word. If you're on X as well, please do like and repost as well. Someone said we've got 400 in. I know we've got people watching on X, which is fine, but we've only got 40 likes on YouTube. So guys, you know what to do. Minimize the screen, hit the like button, and then jump back onto the main screen to help us out. Let's just chat, and I want to get the people's thoughts in the chat as well, because do you think it's a realistic situation that Aston Villa are going to go into the season without making any significant signings?
No. I don't think there will be a chance of that. I think maybe Unai is going to look at the American preseason, maybe 2 games in, realize maybe I need some players, and maybe I've kind of overlooked the situation. The continuity is going to be key because we had the momentum, albeit I know they lost in the last day of the season, but you're still on that good spring of momentum. He's probably going to look at it and go, if I want to do this 3 at the back system, like we touched early on, he'll want to bring in players, but any players are going to be fit, ready in every capacity possible. Even if he's going back to his usual formation, he might say, right, I need someone here, I'm going to need someone there. I don't think there's going to be any chance in the world where we don't make any significant signings.
Yeah. Dancing Brave said we will get 2 or 3 in. Kevin says, remember the window doesn't shut till September. And I agree that there's probably an element of keeping a couple of players or a bit of money aside to make sure that, if you get injuries, if you get loss of form, if you get a bad start to the season, you probably need to make one or two signings. As Michael said, SCR is killing us. So I guess that also points me to my next part of the question, because you've obviously answered it thinking that, understanding that we probably will make 2 or 3 signings. What do you think regarding the players moving out? Like, do you see a Jacob Ramsey, an Emi Martinez, and Ollie Watkins potentially moving? And we have a special guest onto the Fans Forum, Chris. How you doing, mate? Good to have you on. You can answer this question as well, man.
Thanks for having me. How you doing, guys? You okay?
Yeah. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Thanks for having me. Much appreciated.
Top man. What was your podcast called? I was trying to think of it the other day, and when you messaged me earlier, what was it? I'm trying to remember. I used to listen to it all the time as well.
It was Villa Together. So when I did it, I mean, yeah, it's what 5 or so years ago. Ultimately, I started it like, which I imagine was the case for quite a few people. Started like COVID time. So the idea behind it was like, Villa Together, bringing Villa together around the world, essentially, fans all over the world, that kind of stuff. And ultimately, kind of life got in the way of it. And now I kind of stick to watching, shows like yourselves and stuff like that. So happy days.
Yeah, top man. So, question we're on at the minute is, I asked Martin, could you conceivably see Aston Villa making no significant signing this pre-season? So I'll start off with your opinion on that. What do you think on that, Chris?
Do you know what? It's a difficult one. I think to answer it, yes, I could see us not signing anyone. However, if that happened, I wouldn't be happy. And I think ultimately the key to this is really, if you look at what was it, we won 10 out of our last 13 games in the league or whatever back end of last season, and a key part of that, in different kind of spells, shall we say, was the kind of loan players we had. Obviously, the main two being Asensio and Rashford, and I think ultimately we need to replace them. And at the moment, the kind of obviously the stumbling block and the issue that's kind of preventing things at the moment is those guys. Obviously, they've gone, and their places in the squad are pretty much taken up by guys who were out on loan last season. So I mean, we've got lots of Dendoncker, Buendia.
Yeah,
those are probably two of the higher earners. Obviously, there are other guys. I mean, Louis Barry's gone back out on loan. So have others. So those guys are in and amongst the squad, and ultimately, the kind of certainly under Emery and probably even before that, to be fair, it was quite obvious that these guys weren't good enough. So it's at the moment the squad is much weaker than it was at the back end of last season. So, going back to the question, I can see us not signing anyone just because of the situation we're in. Obviously, Emery and Monchi and the guys, they're in the market, hands tied behind their back, because they've got these guys, the guys I've mentioned in the squad. The squad's too big. I think we've probably got about maybe 27, 28 senior players in the squad. So, you go into the season, there's a couple of players that you wouldn't be able to register. Now, I imagine others will leave, probably low earners like Louis Barry's gone and stuff like that. But at the moment, the squad is weaker than it was last season. So realistically, we need to get players in. But at the moment, until the guys that you mentioned just before I came on, until maybe some of them or one of them leaves, we really doesn't look like a lot's going to happen in the market.
Yeah, and that's what I posed the question on X a few weeks ago of, like, if we were to maintain the squad that we've got without obviously the loan signings that we made, because we haven't and we're not going to sign any of those players, where do people think we'd finish? And it was kind of like 6th, 7th. I guess what would you put us at, Chris, in terms of that? Like, would you say that, let's say, for example, we got a bit more out of Watkins, we got more improvement out of Rodgers, more consistency out, say, of a Ramsey, for example. Would you say that is something that we could conceivably see us as still continuing to do well? No, Newcastle didn't make any new signings last season. Liverpool didn't really make any significant signings, so has been done.
Yeah, I think the key there, as you've mentioned, probably Ramsey's, is probably the key in terms of out of those players you mentioned that we really need to see more out of. I know he's had the last 3 seasons. I think each of those 3 he's had bad injuries. Obviously, he picked up the one going into the start of last season or season before, where it was the under 21 injury. But consistency, we need that from him. That's key. I think Marlon as well. Obviously, didn't see a lot of him last season, so he could almost be like a new signing. I think Watkins. He does tend to have his purple patches, doesn't he, each season? But there's probably still a lot more to come from him. But I think the difficulty here is, I know Newcastle obviously managed to get back in the Champions League last season, but the thing was for them is they weren't in Europe. Obviously, we've got to juggle that. We've got to juggle being in Europe, and I think it's going to be. I wouldn't like to see it as kind of as extreme as like United and Spurs did last season, where they literally, threw the Premier League away.
Into it, yeah.
I don't think that would happen, and I think Emery is of such a kind of caliber of a manager that he would get enough out of us to certainly, probably see us do well in Europa League, and I think probably 8th would be a kind of fair prediction. Or a fair kind of maybe assumption based on the quality of the team, just because of all that, really. But again, that could probably be a push, like getting the best out of those players. But like I say, I think Jacob Ramsey, he didn't really. I can't really think of many games that he performed well last season. Obviously, I think he missed 7 games in the middle of the season as well. So it's getting that consistency from him, probably in an area where certainly bodies and kind of out and out wingers, ball carriers, we're probably quite weak. And, in terms of Rashford going back, Ramsey's the kind of guy that's his position to kind of win back, isn't it, really? So he would be a player that would be quite key. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's fair. It's fair. Martin, just in terms of that, with regards to the players moving out, do you think it has to be a case of, like I said before, Martinez or Ramsey or Watkins moving to maybe pave the way for someone like a Garnacho to come in? And there's been Bilal El Khanous linked as well. That seems a Monchi type signing to me. It seems a Monchi type and an Emery type signing. 25 million euros. Someone who's had Premier League experience at 21 years of age. He seems that type of player. But maybe even Garnacho does as well. But do we have to let go of one of the, as Chris says, the big earners to get the likes of Garnacho or El Khanous in?
Well, look, I don't think selling Ramsey's going to help. Although if we were to sell Ramsey, I wouldn't be against it. But I think selling Ramsey doesn't help because it doesn't actually make that much of a dent to the SCR situation. It doesn't make that much of a difference. So you'll want to be looking at Luca Digne, Dendoncker, Buendia, Bailey. These players that are probably on 85 plus.
I mean, the wages that Dendoncker's been managed to get is crazy.
How we got it, his agent deserved a knighthood. And I know we're suffering for that, but his agent will deserve a knighthood for it. But these are the ones that are going to have to make the shift, because Garnacho, as far as I'm aware, he's on between 35 to 50 grand a week at Manchester United. So that would actually help us in the long run. Although me personally, I wouldn't take Garnacho, but if that's kind of the thing that we need to kind of take a route, then I go for it. And the second player, like I said, what was his name again? Because I can't pronounce it for the life of me.
El Khanous.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right now I got it. That's a Monchi type signing. Wouldn't cost much in terms of the wages. I sound like George now. Wouldn't cost much in terms of wages and would be an exciting player. Someone who's hungry to improve his contracts. Maybe that's the sort of thing Villa need to do, is bring players in on not low wages, of course, but enough to give the motivation that we want more. Like Rodgers, because he's performing so well, he's getting that bit more. But to answer your question, it would be Watkins, Martinez, and these other fringe players I've mentioned that will kind of have to go. Ramsey's not going to do too much, I think, in terms of we sell him. It's paving the way.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, my only thing with kind of this squad cost rule is really a balancing act is selling. We had this conversation last week, and we're not going to know until we manage to sign someone or we see where we're at on this, Chris. But like, if you sell someone like a Martinez for 40 million, and you sell someone like a Watkins for 50 million, yes, it takes wages off the wage bill, but you still have to sign someone of equal or better value. So they're going to cost about the same amount of money, and then they're going to command a decent wage. To get a good striker is going to cost you a lot of money. So I don't see where we're going to save that money, if you like. It's because anyone who's going to be, I don't know, 50 grand a week, 30, 40 grand a week, it's going to be a real risk, particularly at centre forward in the Premier League.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, because I think probably those two players in particular, Watkins and Martinez, when you're looking at players better than them, where can you go for that? Watkins,
Exactly.
I know a lot of people, will criticise Watkins rightly or wrongly. A lot of people will criticise Martinez rightly or wrongly. But if you look at it and you think, okay, you take a team that are top six like we are, and you look and say, who are we going to get? Who's going to replace them? That that isn't a risk. You're struggling. You look at the numbers that Watkins has put up for the last 4 or 5 seasons compared to people across Europe. Most of those players are kind of getting nominated in the top 10 for the Ballon d'Or. These are guys that are putting out real big numbers. And then again with Martinez, what he offers is much more than being a good goalkeeper. So I think you're right there. I think it's easy for people to say, yeah, okay, we're getting 40, 50 million. Yeah, okay. The key is obviously big wages, because they probably are two of our higher earners. I think probably like Luca Dean, as Martin mentioned, I think that's probably, that I think he's on about 125 grand a week.
Yeah.
For a guy who, he's done really well. The last 2 seasons, he has really improved. I think last season probably showed he was clearly second choice. And then I think we're not really in that position where we can have a luxury of having Luca Dean on that much money as second choice. It makes sense to get rid of him. You in terms of transfer fee, you might not get 10 million, but for those wages, that's a massive saving for a player that you can't guarantee that's going to be first choice. And I think that's the situation and position we're in now. It's probably, the guys are probably out there saying, Monchi, Emery, out there looking at players and thinking, okay, well, if we are to get rid of X, can we bring in Y that's going to be on less wages, that's less of a risk, and it's difficult to do that. So that, I think Luca Dean is probably one that would be massive for us, because, like you say, with the other two, they'd be so difficult to replace, and it would just be, the kind of the risk associated with it would feel like a backward step, and probably would be a backward step, certainly, instantly, at the start of doing it.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure will become clearer in the next few weeks. I think a few people have put on X, Justin put on that he feels like it's the time that could be, we could be saying goodbye to Martinez. Now, I don't know if that means Bizot will be the number one goalkeeper or whether we go after someone like Chevalier, but we'll wait and see on that. I think Leon Bailey, that talk's gone a little bit quiet, but I can still see him moving on. And as you boys say, Luca Dean, I think probably logically in terms of wages is probably the one to sort of see if we could move him on, or if he signs a renegotiated contract that's a little bit, less money or whatever. So we'll see on that. I mean, Kev said we've only got to reduce our wage bill by 10% this season. We can afford a few high earners. And next season you'll find Dina McGinn, maybe Watkins will leave, which reduces another 10%. Only thing is on that, you've got to make sure that you've got someone to buy them or someone to take them off our hands, which is proving difficult with someone like Leander Dendoncker. Just to finish up, thank you for jumping on, Chris. One question for you to finish up on the show. I asked this to Martin, but who do you see having a big season this season? We had this from one of our on X. So who can you see having a big season this season?
Do you know what? I think I can't see I can't see anyone that's going to be a kind of anything left field. I'd probably say Rodgers or Watkins. I think with the kind of international tournament on the horizon, they're going to want to kind of push for that. Maybe they're going to want to push to get themselves in the in the shop window. For Champions League clubs or something. I don't know, but I think Rodgers probably Rodgers was brilliant last season. He had a really, really good season. I think he probably tailed off towards the end, whether that was shifting positions, stuff like that. I think Watkins as well probably knows he could have done better, but I think for a large parts of the season he was carrying knocks and stuff like that and niggles, which didn't help because they're not really having much of a break. But I think those two, they're probably going to have a lot to prove. They're going to have a lot to push for, and I think that kind of taste of international football. I can see those two, and then obviously I think the obvious one would, for me, would be Tielemans. I think he was just so good last season that I could just see him just being brilliant again. He's that kind of guy that once he got in the team, it was like that was it. He's such a key part of the team. So yeah, I think those two, but with Tielemans just kind of shining through again.
Yeah, well, I think that's a good way to finish. That gets me excited to see those players coming back next week. Even for the preseason tour in America, just to see them sort of, as we mentioned before, having a decent amount of rest across preseason, just being away from each other for a bit, and just being with their families and having a bit of relaxing time, not in tournaments and all that kind of stuff, and coming back late at different times will have a big impact. So I don't disagree in terms of Ollie Watkins potentially having a big season, Morgan Rodgers improving on some of the areas that he needed to last season, and hopefully Yuri Tielemans can just continue to keep churning out performance after performance. But yeah, Chris, thank you for jumping on, mate. It was much appreciated. We did have someone else who tried to jump on, so we want to do this most weeks if we can. I'll pin the link in the chat. Anyone can jump on and join in the fans forum. That's what it's here for. Martin, as always, thank you very much for joining us, and almost 450 in the chat tonight, which is just amazing. So thank you everyone for watching. The season is hotting up, which is good to see. I think everyone's back on the podcast, on the YouTube train, which is good. We've had a bit of a rest and we've had the videos here and there, but now the season's kicking in.
Well, Chris gave us the extra 50 viewers, so
he did. Yeah, you could come back.
It was 400 before he got on. He brought in an extra 50. Come on, Chris, you might want to stick you around for a bit longer.
Definitely. Yeah, that's how I'll roll.
Hit the like on your way out if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe button if you're new to the channel. We want to hit 6K before the season starts. Thank you everyone for watching, and as always, remember, we'll follow the Villa.